Hi guys, so Keir Starmer has returned from Brussels with a deal of sorts with the European Union. So I put together a few slides here and let's have a look at whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Now, we've heard a lot from Brexiteers talking about fish and about sovereignty, but there are a whole range of issues that were covered under this agreement. Now, the first and foremost one was, of course, security and defence. UK-EU Security Defence Partnership agreed, which covers cooperation on Ukraine, cyber defence, crisis management, the defence industry and more, and UK firms to participate in a €150 billion EU Safe Fund. Now this is really important because it's going to allow UK defence contractors, the UK defence industry, access to this fund. Now this is much more important than fish, much more important than other issues. This is going to create jobs. It's going to allow UK manufacturing to participate in a huge investment on the continent. Now, of course, fishing was, of course, brought up as well. What the deal includes is a 12-year reciprocal fishing agreement until June 2038. There's no increase in the EU quota in UK waters and 350 million UK investment in fishing and coastal communities. Now, you're going to hear from Brexiteers talking about this as a betrayal. Look, as we know, most fish caught in UK waters is sold into the single market, into the EU. The fish that are caught by British fishing trawlers is not really consumed in Britain. So there's no real loss here. It's just an existing agreement extended out for another number of years. Sanitary and phytosanitary SPS agreement, so a permanent SPS agreement to ease food and agricultural trade. So as we know, there have been problems with trade between GB and Northern Ireland, so we probably will see less friction there. And of course, between GB and the rest of Europe. So this is going to reduce some of that friction. It's not the same as being part of the single market or the customs union, but it will reduce at least some of the friction when it comes to food. Now, non-food products are not covered here. So once again, this is just something related to food. It says also some checks on animal and plant products removed, featuring dynamic alignment, joint oversight, and dispute resolution. Dynamic alignment is really important. This is something that we're going to hear a lot about going forward, where if the EU increases its standards, the UK automatically increases its standards too. So there's no delay in increasing standards, and there's a reduction in the paperwork and delays, and applies to Great Britain and Northern Ireland via the Windsor Framework. Climate and energy, the UK and the EU to link emissions trading system. The UK avoids £800 million per year in EU carbon taxes. Dynamic alignment once again. Potential UK participation in EU electricity market, which would be good. Now, unfortunately, most UK energy is private, so that may not be something that most ordinary people will see a benefit from. Continued cooperation on hydrogen, carbon capture and biomethane. Combined with SPS deal worth £9 billion to the UK economy by 2040. So, so far, pretty good stuff. Youth Arts and Study work towards a UK-EU youth experience scheme. The UK to rejoin Erasmus Plus, subject to certain terms, and they will have to be ironed out later on. This is a really good step towards a better situation for young people. And then support for touring artists reaffirmed. Once again, we'll have to see the details of that. At the moment, there's very little to go on. But it certainly is an improvement for young people and artists, which have been left behind in the entire Brexit discussion. On travel and border management, so the UK nationals will use EU e-gates even on post-entry and exit system. Now, this is still... You'll hear in the news about how EU member states will still have to sign off on this, and they probably go along with this. I don't see EU member states being a problem here. So while some people on the Brexit side will say, well, this isn't really a win, or we have to wait for the other countries to agree to this, look, this will be pretty much rubber stamped by EU member states. I don't see any problem there. And then pet passports reintroduced for UK dogs and cats, which is positive. Trade and services competition cooperation agreement includes dialogue to cover professional qualifications recognition. business mobility, entry and temporary stay. Steel exports protected from tariffs, 25 million per year saved. Once again, positive. And I really hope that Keir Starmer and his administration keep pushing the positives of this. This is a positive. I'll get to more political stuff in a moment. Law enforcement and data sharing, finalising Europol arrangements for better data exchange, which is really important, of course. You know, because the UK was not a member of the European Union, it lost access to tracking criminals across the continent. Improved access to fingerprinting, DNA, vehicle registration and facial images, closer cooperation with Europol and National Crime Agency. Judicial cooperation, the UK to join the Hague Convention on Judgments effective from this year, and enhancements in the UK-EU collaboration on civil, commercial and family law. Once again, something really positive. Health and drug cooperation, ongoing UK-EU dialogue on health security and pandemics. As we saw, it was so important during the pandemic that the UK and the EU work together. Planned working arrangement with the EU Drugs Agency. And finally, immigration, which of course is the hot button issue at the moment. Commitment to deeper cooperation on irregular migration and returns. The UK may join the Khartoum and Rabat processes against anti-trafficking initiatives, and enhanced collaboration with Fortex and the EU Asylum Agency. So on the whole here, it seems to be something quite positive. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the politics, you're going to see people like Nigel Farage and to a certain extent the Conservatives try to attack this, say it's a betrayal, it's a sellout. But in reality, I think we're starting to see the end of Brexit. Brexit is dying a slow death because we're already seeing greater cooperation between the UK and the EU. And we already saw some of that when Rishi Sunak was in charge. Remember the Windsor Framework, a great agreement to deal with some of the problems with Northern Ireland. So I think we're starting to see the first few baby steps towards the UK rejoining the European Union. Now, you're going to hear, of course, from Nigel Farage, and you're going to hear from the Conservatives. Kemi Badenoch has said that when she gets into power, she's going to roll all this back. She's going to cancel it. Yes, but remember, Kemi Badenoch said that she would get rid of 3,000 EU laws when she was in charge. She was in charge, and she didn't get rid of them because she understood that was a stupid idea. And when it comes to Nigel Farage, well, I think he's more concerned about immigration and domestic issues. And while he may pander to his supporters on some aspects of this, especially when it comes to migration, I think he's not really going to change anything if he was Prime Minister. This is at the very beginning. The next general election is 3 or 4 years from now. So I think we're going to see a process towards greater cooperation between the UK and the EU. And as I said, a slow but constant march back away from Brexit. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.